Just outside the walls of a Chinese city lived a young woodcutter named Tang and his old mother, a woman of 70. They were very poor, dwelling in a tiny shanty of mud and grass that they rented from a neighbor. Every morning Tang climbed the mountain to cut firewood, returning at evening to sell it and bring home food. Though poor, they were happy, for they loved each other dearly. One day Tang rose before daylight, shouldered his axe, and set out for the hills. Tomorrow was a holiday, he told his mother, and he would bring back a heavier load than usual so they could feast. The old woman watched him go, murmuring to herself how good her boy was, how dearly he loved his old mother. All day long she waited patiently, going about her simple chores. Afternoon came, and she began watching the mountain path. The sun sank lower and lower, but still her son did not return. At last fear gripped her heart. "Something has happened," she whispered. She strained her feeble eyes along the trail, but saw only a flock of sheep following their shepherd. Seizing her crutch, she limped to a neighbor's house and begged him to search for the missing boy. The kind neighbor shook his head as they walked together. "There are many wild beasts in the mountains," he warned, "and I fear your son has met one." Halfway up the slope, he found a pile of torn clothing spattered with blood, the woodman's axe lying beside the path, his carrying pole and rope abandoned. After a brave fight, the poor youth had been carried off by a tiger. Gathering up the torn garments, the neighbor trudged sadly down the hill. At the foot, he found the old woman still lying on the ground. When she looked up and saw what he carried, she gave a cry of despair and fainted away. Friends bore her home, but nothing could comfort her. She tore her hair and beat her chest, crying that the gods had treated her with cruel injustice. The next day, to everyone's surprise, the old widow set out for the city, hobbling along on her crutch. It was a pitiful sight, so old, so feeble, so utterly alone. People pointed and whispered as she passed. In the city, she found the public hall and knelt at the gate, crying out her terrible story to anyone who would listen, demanding justice for her murdered son. Inside the courtroom, the mandarin heard her wailing and bade his servants bring her in. She told him everything, her lame blindness, her poverty, her only son devoured by a mountain tiger. She demanded the killer be punished, for the law decrees none may shed blood without paying with their own. But the magistrate laughed loudly. How could a tiger face justice? Surely the old woman had lost her senses. The widow would not be silenced. She howled and shrieked until the hall itself seemed to shake with her grief. The magistrate could endure it no longer. "Very well," he cried, "the slayer shall be caught. Only go home and wait." But the old woman was too sharp for him. She refused to budge until she saw him sign the warrant with her own two eyes. The judge turned to his assistants and asked for a volunteer. One of them, a man named Lineng, had been leaning against the wall half asleep, drunk from heavy drinking. A friend poked him in the ribs just as the judge called for someone to go. Thinking he had been summoned by name, Lineng stumbled forward, knelt, and declared that he would carry out the magistrate's will. The judge handed him the warrant, and the old mother hobbled home satisfied. Outside, Lineng's friends crowded around, laughing. "Drunken fool," they said, "do you know what you have done? Arrest a man-eating tiger and drag him to court? Better say farewell to your parents, for they will never see you again." When the wine wore off, Lineng saw his friends were right, and terror flooded his heart. He tried to return the warrant, but the judge would hear nothing of it. "You gave your word," the magistrate said coldly. "Fail, and you will be beaten until you succeed." For 6 weeks, Lineng hired the finest hunters, searched every cave, watched every night, and found nothing. Every 5 days he returned empty-handed and received 50 blows, until his friends whispered he was drawing near his coffin. One day, after all the hunters had given up in disgust, Lineng stumbled into a mountain temple and fell to his knees before the fierce-looking idol. Tears streamed down his face as he moaned that he was a dead man. Then he heard a rustling at the gate. Looking up, he saw a huge tiger standing there, watching him with golden eyes. Strangely, Li felt no fear at all. He looked the great cat in the eye and spoke. "You killed the woodcutter," he said, "an only son who cared for his old mother. She has reported you to the magistrate, and I was sent to bring you to trial. I have suffered for your cowardice, but no more. You must come with me to the city and answer for this charge." To his astonishment, the tiger listened. The tiger bent his head and let Li slip a chain over it, then followed him quietly through the crowded streets into the courtroom. The people gasped at the impossible sight. The judge asked if he had killed the woodcutter, and the great beast gravely nodded. Then the judge offered a bargain. If the tiger would support the widow as her son had done, he would spare its life. Again the tiger nodded. The chains were removed, and the great animal walked out toward his mountain. The widow was furious, muttering that no tiger could replace his son. But within days a deer appeared at her door, the tiger's gift. Then came rolls of cloth and coins left at her feet. Year after year the faithful beast provided for her, purring at her door, until she lacked for nothing. At last the good old woman died, and friends laid her to rest at the mountain's foot. The faithful tiger lay on her grave, wailing like a child who had lost its mother. He searched the slopes each night, but she was gone. Then he vanished. Some say he died of grief in a hidden cave.